I wouldn't be the person I am now if I didn't do what I did, right? And I find it hard to alter with that perception of that young person to the point that it wouldn't make me who I am. But I don't know. At the same time, there's some things that I would say that I'd want them to do. Honestly, take more risks. Take more risks is what I would say.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Ish with the Relentless Project, and I'm here with Ethan Merritt.
What's going on?
What do you got here, bro? I never got a gift. Actually, I lied. I got jerky. Jerky last episode.
Oh,
I'm going to start requiring gifts. What you got here?
So we have some bourbon called the Horse Soldier Bourbon. I don't know if you've heard of it before. So this bourbon was started by one of the first ODAs, Green Beret team, that went into Afghanistan in 2001, and they were called the Horseback Soldiers because when they went in, at some point, we didn't have bases everywhere all the time in the world, especially in the Middle East, but they had limited resources with the warlords they worked with against the Taliban on the ground, and they literally were handed horses to infill into certain areas, and they were fighting against the Taliban on 80s Russian tanks, and they came in there on horseback like no shit. That's all they had. I mean, they brought their gear, so you brought like a week pack plus or whatever they had, but they came in on horseback. And that ODA 595, I got gifted a bottle of it from my buddy, and then I got gifted another bottle, but that was signed by the captain of that ODA and then the master sergeant of the ODA. They started this brand after.
So is this their signatures?
It is, yeah. Captain Coco on there.
Captain Coco?
I can't read the master sergeant's name, but yeah.
Mitch, Nutch.
It was, it's
I
Mitch.
can't read.
Yeah.
I speak
It's
two languages.
Mitch, yeah. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but I got this as a gift. So they had signed a bottle, and what's cool about this brand is the prints they have here are the printing that is made for all of the bottles was a piece of the World Trade Center. It was made to do the imprinting. So there's a piece of that prints these on all of the bottles.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Where can you find that? I don't think I've ever seen this.
Yeah, Horse Soldier Whiskey's they have it in PA. They do have it kind of everywhere now. It is a national brand. Take a look. They have straight bourbon whiskey. They have a rye. They have like a premium whiskey. I can't remember what it was. But so this one I will take home because it's signed, but I wanted to share it with you today.
Now pop it open. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been in the military. I've always see you around. I see you around in every circle, bro. You do a lot. You stay busy. You have video creator on your Instagram profile.
Ain't that a load of shit?
What is a video creator?
I know everybody is really.
Well, there's people who do it, and there's people who do it for something. You like, I think I first met you making videos and stuff.
I used to do it legitimately, and I say legitimately, but professionally. I used to get paid to make videos. I mean, that's what I did. One thing I do want to say that, this is a very American bourbon. Cheers to this first. Is I drink, and I want this because I would like to come back around to this later, but I drink under good circumstances only. So we're cheersing because I'm drinking to having, another good day on planet Earth. And that's the only time that I really drink is when I'm having good times. I don't drink under bad circumstances. That's one thing I've learned from being younger, from a lifelong experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. So that is, I think that's something that will bring about within my story. But what else do you want to?
That's a good way to look at it.
What else do you want to start with?
First thing we got to start with, we call this at work. It's called an SJ, a swirl job. I don't know. I work with a lot of like bourbon connoisseurs. They're the dudes who wait in line for hours for drops, and I don't know what any of that is. And they watch these videos on how to drink bourbon. And I always see them doing the SJ. That's what I've coined it. So, cheers. I'm not sure if you're supposed to shoot it, but That's how I gauge. This isn't a paid ad either, so don't come liquor board come for me or something.
This was just a gift. Just bringing a cool gift.
A taste.
Yeah, something that's different. You know, something that speaks to what I would like to consider a very tough and very like noble generation. I mean, the beginning of the war that we remember was critical for a super long period of time for our lives, and the generation of men, unfortunately, that have had to reap the repercussions of all that. So I think it was these dudes are pretty gnarly to go into horseback into combat when we were at a national crisis.
Dude, my hat goes off to all those men and women who do that stuff, because then I get to sit here across the table and talking to a mic. You know, like how many other places can you do that? You know, so hats off to them. Speaking of the beginning, let's go into your beginning. How are you here today? Everyone has a different story on their come up, and it's interesting because although a lot of people may be in the same place in life, the way they got there, it's like 1,000 different routes. And one thing I like about this podcast is that I get to hear a lot of those stories. So what did you do growing up? Were you a suburbanite? Were you out in the boonies by yourself chopping wood? Tell us a little bit about yourself growing up.
I was in a military family, so my dad was in the Air Force, so we traveled a lot. I grew up in, was born in California on the Central Coast, same place Chuck Liddell was from.
Cali boy.
Yeah, my mom would frequent the gym at the same college Chuck Liddell was at, and they were the same age. It's kind of funny. And then we ended up moving. My dad joined the Air Force, and we went to New Mexico, we went to Guam, we went to England, and we went back to California by the time I was in high school again. So
how'd you end up on the East Coast?
Yeah, I spent my whole life being an athlete, and athletics was in the sport of gymnastics mostly. I played soccer in England like every kid. Like I went to public school there, but I was athletic in gymnastics, and then got into diving, and so I was on the swim team in high school. And it's like an easy transition over from gymnastics to being able to dive. It's not that complicated, but I was doing really well, so I wanted to look at a sports scholarship. I didn't give a flying shit about school. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
I don't think most people do until they're done.
Most people don't.
Then
they're
like,
18.
man, I should have took it more serious.
Especially guys. I feel like guys don't. It's just there's lots of reasons that you might go to school, but you couldn't hardly figure out what it really is. So like a lot of the friends I started school with, most dropped out in the first semester, first year. That's pretty common. I say the path of being an athlete, and that's what kind of kept me centered, at least relatively speaking. So that brought me to the East Coast, and I was a national level diver for 2 years in NCAAs. Yep,
like that,
doing the dives. Yeah,
I would bust my ass trying that. I try it. I just don't land appropriately. Make big splashes.
I have not landed appropriately a few times. I've hit my head on the board. I've hit my feet on the board. It gets a little.
They deduct points or what?
They
minus
do.
10.
They
minus 10.
They do. If you hit the board but you still make it in, you still get points. I mean, it's not a failed dive.
What constitutes a failed dive?
If you don't complete what the movement is supposed to be, like a front 2.5 tuck, if you open up and your feet hit before your face hits because you really messed up. Like if you open up early and you're flat, if you're flat, that doesn't count as you diving.
If I intended to do that? Not many people do.
That's true.
I like to go against the grain.
That's true.
Get up. I meant to do that.
So some going against the grain was like on the 3-meter springboard, like the high springboard, doing any feet first entry was like you were allowed to do it, like a back triple. You could do a back triple, land on your feet in the water. I don't know why you would, but my buddy did it all the time. He thought it was funny. He got less points, but it was a higher difficulty dive because it was another half rotation. Whereas like I did a back 2.5, and you open up upside down, right? He would land on his feet, which was more points because he did another half rotation. But they would score it lower because it's like, why? Why did you do a feet first entry? It's like taboo.
That's interesting.
Unless it's high diving. Professional high diving is a different sport, though. So, yeah.
Dude, see? Just learned something new. Podcast episode. It was a win. All right, folks. See you later. No, I'm kidding. So all that, you come from a military family. Mm-hmm. Was that one of your main motivators for joining the military, or was it something you always just like wanted to do yourself apart from your family?
I never wanted to. I had a little, I'm not going to call it resentment, but it had put a bad taste in my mouth a little bit from my dad being gone. I mean, he deployed twice when I was a kid, so it didn't cross my mind as a path I wanted to do. I wasn't against it. I was just like, I don't want to do that, and so I found myself being at a split when I was leaving diving and transitioning. I'd been a competitive athlete since I was 4, and I was like, man, I don't really know what I'm doing after this, and I hadn't really thought about it. So I had a summer to think about it, and I'd just gotten done with nationals, and I was hoping to win nationals, and I wanted to win to then be done. I wanted to retire with a first under my belt at the NCAA national level for Division II at least, and then I wanted to be able to walk away, and I didn't get a win, but I was so burned out. I was like, yeah, I think it's time for me to move on. And I sat down with my dad at home, and he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, I have no idea. And I had to really sit there and ponder. And I think without diving in a sport, I didn't have competition. I definitely didn't have purpose. But really, my whole life, I kind of realized I was like, I don't really have a purpose. Ethan was his purpose. That was it. There was nothing much before that. So I was like, I kind of felt deep down that I wanted to pay the man and pay something to society in some fashion. I felt selfish before that.
I know exactly what you mean.
I definitely did. I just felt selfish. Like I was doing good. I was in college. I was doing good at sports. I just didn't get fulfillment.
There was something more missing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's literally why I joined the military. And then some things happened, and that career didn't work out. So now I'm a cop because I'm like, what's the next best thing? What's the next best way to give back? Mm-hmm. And coming from where I came from, there's not many avenues to go to. So I was like, oh, I can never be a cop, but why not? A lot of my childhood is why not. Like I got into college because I'm like, why not try? And then I got an acceptance letter. I'm like, okay.
Why not go?
Guess I'll go. Yeah, guess I'll go. I was working like 3 jobs. I just had my daughter. So I'm like,
going into college.
Going into college. I'm like, typical Hispanic. You hug us, baby. But
you're fertile.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, why not? And here I am. So that's good. So you joined the military. What was your aspiration for the military? Was that something you saw, I'm going to do this my 20 years and go all in? Or was it just the next stepping block for you?
It was a stepping block. It's sort of like you probably felt similarly, at least when you joined. Like you have an idea, but you don't really know what it's going to be like. So I kind of knew in the back of my head, I was 22, or no, I was 21, and I was like, I don't really know what it's like, but I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a half decent paying job for the next 4 years after school. I'm going to commission, go do that for 4 years. I'll have a job. That's all I cared about. I was like, cool, I have something to going on, and the pride of being in the Army was like becoming there when I was in it more and learning more. It was tough, it was hard, but I knew people were respectful of it, and I was like, oh, cool. I mean, that's a start for me, And it was funny, like when I went to my first training cycle, and when I was going into like the Army itself as a cadet, I was starting to learn about the jobs in the Army, and here's where my ego and my competitiveness still was there, despite never fully goes away. I was like, what's the hardest job as an officer? Because I was like, there's like all sorts of different jobs you learn a little bit about, but like not really. Like field artillery, adjutant general, like I don't know what those do for work, and they're like, well, between being a pilot and being in the infantry, those are the 2 hardest. And I know what you're thinking, how is the infantry the hardest? It's because the officers have to be smart. They put smart, tough, physically good people. You have to be all 3 components to be in charge of infantry, people who are not necessarily all of those attributes at all times. They might be tough, but I would not say they all went to Harvard.
No offense.
No offense.
No offense.
Some have, believe it or not. But you get a lot of diversity, and you get the highest risk, You're in charge of infantry guys. That's the highest risk. They're super hard-charging, testosterone-driven guys with guns. And you don't need a high ASVAB score. please, for the love of God, put someone smart in charge.
Speaking of ASVAB scores, I scored high on the ASVAB. And like, this is where my ignorance, I was so ignorant. I was like, I'm doing the Army. I have nothing else. So I test, and this is very few times that a recruiter questions you, right? I think I scored like a 99 or something.
Jesus.
And I was like, oh, infantry. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. Like, out of all these all these MOSs we explain to you, that's the one. I'm like, that's the Army, right? Like, you go out, you fight, you're like,
that's the one.
They're like, yeah. I'm like, I'll do that. And he's looking at me like, are you sure? And I'm 17. My mom had to sign. I told my mom didn't speak English. She does speak English. She just lies. I think she lies and pretends not to. But I told her, I was like, you got to sign all these papers for them to talk with me. So she starts signing, and they're like, can you translate to her? I'm translating to her. And they're like, you understand? She's like, yeah. I'm telling them like, oh, they just said this is this. She's like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, she's on board. So she signs. I do all this. And it's so creepy because that's when the Armory, I was in the Guard. That's when the Armory was in Erie on 8th and Parade. It's like this shady building. And I literally got picked up in a white van and took the MEPS in Buffalo. This dude just picks me up. I'm standing there. Yeah, I'm like, oh, shit, okay. But yeah, I was so ignorant, so dumb. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. They're like, okay, boom, send me. But so you end up joining. You end up committing to a good thing.
Yeah. And it was with like I said, it was fueled with ego still, but in a direction that was like, I knew I had to do something better than just fucking off. You know, being an athlete is great, but I wasn't going to get paid to do it. I mean, I did, but I wasn't going to get paid like a real professional athlete. So it was like, what was I going to work on and do? Like, I didn't know. That's why I joined the National Guard, because I kind of realized, I'm like, I kind of want to stay and see if I can get into grad school. So I took a Guard contract, not an active duty contract, intentionally. It was the same kind of obligation. So I decided to go into the Guard, and I was like, you know what, that's perfect, because I probably won't deploy. It's only like 2 weeks in the summer, and I can go to grad school and figure out, like, if I want to go full Army, cool, I'll have it on my resume that I went to grad school. I'll have some Army time. I'll go apply and go into active duty. We deployed 6 months later. all of my unit guys, all of my E6s and stuff, and they're like, we're not going to get deployed. Like, we would have known this is like a last minute thing. It's not happening. And they kept saying that. And even at trainings, they're like, we're going to jump through hoops. Don't be too surprised, sir. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Like, up literally until we're about to leave. And they're like, it's been canceled before on the tarmac, just by the way. They were certain, like, normally years in advance if your unit's up. And this was within 1 year. And they're like, it's not happening. And sure as shit, we ended up leaving. So I went to the Middle East for a year.
Yeah. Kuwait?
I started there. Yeah. I started in Kuwait. I was in...
everyone's deployment.
Yeah, Camp Buring's the, like, epicenter, or at least, I mean, I'm sure it still is, but the epicenter of going anywhere else, you pretty much go to Camp Buring first. If it's a staging area, you fly into Ali Salim or Arif Drawn Air Base or whatever, like those two bases, and then you go out elsewhere to either Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan. So we started there doing security there for the base, and then going up to Jordan, training some Jordanians, going up north into Jordan as well, and then ending our deployment in the Middle East in Dubai, a different part of the Middle East, way different area, where we actually got to see like some normalcy, you know,
some America.
We still stayed in tents, by the way, but we were like 10 miles away from the city, so it was like I got a very well-rounded deployment experience. Some scary stuff, some boring shit, some typical infantry stuff, and then kind of a cool mission at the end, which was like we were supporting a HIMARS unit, which was doing HIMARS bombing into different parts of the country. Their headquarters was there, kind of in a not hidden compound, but separate from where you'd think it would be at. And we were the security measure there if we went to war with Iran, which now looks way more closer on the horizon.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So we were the security if that was to happen. So that was all in 2016, 2017 time.
So you're balls deep, for lack of better terminology. You're balls deep in the military.
Yes.
How does that translate into your creative outlet? Like you starting to make videos and you getting into social media realm. Like how did the military set you up? Actually, before we get there, what happened with the military that caused you to like be like, this chapter's over now, boom? Because your goal was 20 years.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Everyone's goal is 20 years, but
Right.
What was that deciding factor for you?
I think for me, I had put in a lot of time, and it was getting to a political point. As officers, it gets political rather quick. It's not your first assignment typically, but by the time you're a captain, you're playing a political game. I think on the enlisted side, that is later. It's not non-existent. It is just later. I think, E4, E5, E6, that's probably 12 years in the Guard to get to E6, roughly. It might be lesser, but it starts getting political. Maybe it's E7 and up. So you're at the tail end of your career when you have to start thinking about it being monkey business and not being with the guys and doing something fun on the weekends. I mean, this is drill. This is drill weekend I was doing. I wasn't active duty the whole time. I was active duty a couple years total time. So it was getting political, and I kind of saw that I wasn't going to be doing kind of the same work I'd been starting. And I wasn't really enjoying where I was at with it, and I didn't want to get resentful. I didn't need to be a commander or a captain that checks out. That's dangerous. And I didn't need to be one that really was despising the unit or the decisions that were being made. And so if I knew deep down I wasn't going to be on board, the repercussions are people below me somewhere. And that's scary. And that's at a place where as much as I needed to be all in it, I wasn't anymore. And I needed to understand that somebody else needs to be all in it instead of me. And I need to take a step away because the Army keeps rolling along, as the motto goes. But that is a trickle effect that I'd seen being a young leader where, I learned that. And I was like, wow, I've seen how it makes a difference to have a bad boss on deployment, and I can see how it will make a difference if I'm a bad boss for people, and I don't want to be.
What makes you different? Because you oftentimes see a lot of people put in this position and they're not good leaders, and being a good leader doesn't mean making the best decisions all the time, but it's checking yourself and realizing like, hey, this ain't for me anymore. I'm not all in. I'm not all invested. It's time for me to step back. You often see that in these career fields where people double down and just like coast, because in an organization that's big like that, it's easy to coast and get by sometimes.
Yeah.
So how did you come to that realization that you're like, this is it?
It's yeah, I think that's challenging. I think it's because I remember seeing a bad boss. I can say this now because it doesn't really matter. Like, my boss on deployment was terrible. He was an awesome dude. He was not a good leader. And I just remember day after day after day being so frustrated. And I was playing the middleman for my guys and him. And I think it takes a level of eating shit and self-awareness and learning that you're not going to be good at it, and that you need to, like, quite literally FITFO, like, figure it the fuck out. And I'd seen the repetitions of this enough to know that I don't want to be put in that dangerous spot or put other people there, but I wouldn't have gotten the self-awareness if I hadn't spent so much time in it. Spending so much time under challenging pressure like that, where you can't quit, you can't go home. It's not like you go work at McDonald's and you just quit after 3 weeks. Like, if I quit, I go to jail. There's no quitting the Army on deployment. You're under Title 10. And it's not to say that I was a good leader at all there, but I learned, like, I really lived with figuring out, how to make the circumstances the best. And it created a lot of self-awareness. It created a lot of growing up. I mean, I was 24 on deployment.
FITFO. I'm still in that. I'm using that. Anytime FITFO.
FITFO, baby.
What? Figure it the fuck out. So how does that lead into your career as, videographer, video creator? I don't know what the proper term is, but a guy who does video shit. How does that lead to that?
I know, right? It's my career's kind of evolved from, like, the creative side of the house to the marketing and strategy side. It's kind of somewhere in between a lot of the times, at least public facing, but for different jobs I've had, it's been slightly different roles. I've always had a creative side, man, but like I don't think I'm some creative wizard genius like gonna change the world. It's just I've always enjoyed essentially at its core storytelling, like at its core. I used to edit on Windows Movie Maker in like 2007. Dude, I uploaded a video that had over 500,000 views in 2007, but it didn't matter then. I just like making stories. There wasn't even monetization. It was just fun.
That is true. That is true.
It's like it's my way of my childhood coming out. You know, it's my way of like remembering what fun is. That's my way of doing it. It's through sports, but it's like I always found a camcorder my parents had and a camera because we traveled. They had a camera all the time because we were traveling as a family. They always wanted to take pictures and memories. It like rubbed off on me that I was like, oh, it's like that's the ultimate storytelling, like getting to show places that you've been that other people haven't. And I think it just kind of developed into that is like ultimately coming down to like two big things in my life that have always been a constant. Some sort of creative and some sort of athletics. There's really, it simplifies, it always comes back down to those two things, like almost always.
And you stay pretty active because you just competed in the tactical games, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How was that?
I'm putting myself back in competitions, which is fun. A little harder when you're 32.
Brings that athlete mindset back into your life.
Yeah, man. It's like a building block of my life personally, and then I think a scratch you can't itch as an adult very easily. There's not frequently places that especially men can be in those environments again. And if you're athletic, I think that's a huge layer as an athlete. If you're a pro athlete, I mean, I don't know that, but I'm just assuming like at any level, you know, you have an understanding that there's camaraderie, there's, you know, there's a lot of time that you spend together that is tough and challenging, and physically you grow and you achieve and you have successes and you have dopamine hits, you know, and all of that kind of goes away when you're an adult because you have monotony, you have your day to day, and there's not a lot of highs and lows, and there's not a lot of camaraderie like tribalism like guys are naturally supposed to have. Like hunting, you know, like hunting together historically before fucking sports, which there probably was back in the day too. But I'm just saying before that, it was a need. Guys would be together as a need. And, you know, I found that in sports, I found that in the Army, and it's a thing I kind of need, you know what I mean? At the end of the day.
I think every guy needs that, and, you know, girls too, but guys especially, because there's that bond that's created, you know, and it's anytime you do something hard together, it's strengthened.
Yeah.
And then you leave that, and we see a lot of these issues with veterans. Mm-hmm. They leave this community of brotherhood of I'll die for you, you'll die for me. That's how deep it is. And then they go out into this world where everybody's self-serving and what am I getting? What am I doing? And people struggle with that. I got a couple friends who've struggled with that. And sports is a good way, a good outlet. You join another organization like policing. You see a lot of veterans getting into policing, into security, into contracting, because there's that bond, there's that group mentality, and and you've found it. You're finding this in the tactical games. So what are the for those who don't know? Because I mean, I heard about it because you were in it. That was the first time I've ever heard about it. And I'm like, oh, shit, I'd probably like this. Not the elite level. I've been doing my research. Not the elite level.
Elite's no joke.
But something I'd like to dabble in. You know, you're pushing yourself physically. You're pushing yourself mentally. You're pushing yourself technically. You know, there's a lot of technical things you have to do in shooting and stuff like that. So what are the tactical games?
The tactical games is a shooting competition at its core. It's a rifle platform and a pistol platform shooting competition combined with essentially what workouts would be similar to CrossFit. And I say the word similar because they're less technical finesse. That's not like clean and jerk and snatching weights before you shoot, but it's like picking up equivalent weight that you would in CrossFit and moving it. It mimics, in the Army, it mimics like a stress shoot. If you're getting your heart rate up, you're shooting a gun, you're transitioning the gun too, and you're kind of having to use a little part of your brain under less oxygen while you do it all at the same time. But it is very challenging in a fun way. It's things I've liked, right? I mean, I shot a lot in the Army. Being in the infantry, we shot the most, even in the Guard. So like I miss having that camaraderie and that, using that tool, using a weapon in a way that is engaging and something that's realistic, because going to the range doesn't really cut it for me. Like if I talk to gun guys, those typically don't really cut it for me. I'm like, that's great. I'm glad you spent $8,000 on a pistol. That's not the part of the hobby that I miss. I miss the camaraderie part and like the toughness, right? I don't miss, like I'm not a scientist in that sense, So I think as far as a gun community type deal, it's different because it's a lot of tough dudes that know how to stay in shape, that know how to shoot, and I think that's a minute amount of people. It's growing, but it's not a traditional gun competition in that regard. And so yeah, you'll move some heavyweight, and you do about 6 to 7 events on a weekend. Each one's between 20 and 30 minutes. And almost every single one involves some sort of body weight movements, some sort of weighted sandbags, or some sort of obstacle course and shooting. All of them do. And it is quite diverse. It's very fun.
How'd you find this?
I'd seen it online. I'd seen it online in 2021. I think it started in 2020. It might have started right before that. Obviously, going right into that pandemic, they probably didn't have great high numbers for starting this sport and activity, right? But my buddy did it in 2021, and he was in the Army with me, and he's like, hey, I think you'd like it. It's pretty hard. Like, you did a tryout for Special Forces. Like, can't be harder than that. Like, you would do fine. I was like, okay, sure. And the hardest part is getting a gear that you need. But I'd acquired a lot in the Army, and I kind of knew what to look for. So I was like, okay, well, jumping in is a little easier if you know a little bit about guns, So I used same platform as my work weapon, same platform as my pistol for work too. Just kind of the same deal. And I went to one event with him, so he convinced me to do it, and he convinced me to jump into the tactical division, which is the one in the middle. A little ambitious.
First one, why not?
First one, don't do the entry level one. You'll be fine, man.
Yeah, no, I'll do the entry level. I'll work. There's levels. How'd you prepare for that? Is that something you just went in and were like, because you look in shape. I know you're in shape. You climb. You do all kinds of things. So is it something more of a I'm ready, I'm going to try it, or I need to polish some things before I get in there?
Yeah, it was polishing, yes. But last year when I first did it, I didn't really have a deliberate plan. I was like, okay, well, I need to move X amount of weight, generally speaking. If you read the outlines of what it requires, and I've seen some of the events online. So I knew my general strengths and weaknesses, generally speaking. But what I did before it, which was just kind of a gut check for me, was doing 75 hard. And on the last day of it was my competition. And that was very intentional because I'm like, okay, now all my focus for 2.5 months is going to be just prepping. Perfect. It'll give me a reason to have the diet and a reason to do all the things and a reason to not drink more than just the 75 hard, because the end goal is a competition. And I can go have fun, go shoot, and I can go get drunk after and have a steak. Sweet.
Win, and win.
Win across the board.
Yeah.
And so I was all around fit, but I realized when I was there I was not dialed into that sport yet, and it was humbling. It was a gut check. I didn't fail any event. I was pretty close to failing one event, but I was physically beat up, and I left there being like, oh man, I feel like I barely made it out of there. So I was ready to compete this year.
How do you fail an event?
Well, a lot of the events will have like a time hack. So it'll say, okay, you'll like the event that I almost failed. This one was ruthless. You have on like a plate carrier for every event with weight. Typically your rifle and your pistol.
Why do body weight? Like,
why?
Stupid.
Yeah, that's dumb. And you would this event had a ruck on as well, which was I think 25, 35 pounds.
Of course.
And then you went to the bottom of a staircase that's a 5-story building, and you would take weights, 40 pounds, 60 pounds, 80 pounds, up to the top, drop it off, shoot long distance rifle, and come back down. And do that, and take the next bag up, then back down, then back up, then back down. Then you have to bring all the weights down. Sounds hard as it is, but they put a time hack of 15 minutes. So they say if you don't hit it in 15 minutes.
5 stories?
Yeah. 5 flights of stairs, yeah. Going all the way up.
I'd throw up.
It was rough.
I think I'd throw up.
But it had a time hack because, if you think about it, it's like, okay, like if you have half an hour or longer, it's going to be hard, but like you'll make it because you can take breaks. But they're like, let's just add that little edge. You now have a clock running, and that's what makes it hard. Failing an event, if you ND, if you discharge your your rifle or pistol somewhere, that is an obvious failed of event. You are gone for the weekend. So you have to know how to use it on a range and range etiquette. But if you don't make the time hack, you don't necessarily DQ a whole event, but you will just get like 3 minutes added on your time. So each event is time based as its structure for the event, and then misses on targets add time. If you miss a target on pistol, it's like 10 seconds. If you miss one on rifle, it's 7 seconds or 10 seconds. It depends on the event. So the total running time of the event. So if you smoke the event, like if you go up, down, and you do the whole thing in 10 minutes, that just helps your time. And then if it'll kind of go off your misses for adding time total. So then they'll say who got the quickest time overall based on time of the workouts plus the misses they either do or do not have. That's kind of how it works.
That's interesting. You said you tried out for the Special Forces.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? When was that in your career? Were you obviously still in the military, but was it earlier on? Was it recently?
It was not recently. Although I'd love to just see how I do now, because like I'm in really good shape now again. But when I was 27 in what was this 2019?
Which sounds like not that long ago until you do the math.
It doesn't, right? And then you're like, oh shit. In 2019, after our deployment, I came back and I wanted to try out for a National Guard SF unit. So I did their drill tryouts. So I did not go to selection. So quote me on this. I did not go to selection. I'm not saying I passed selection. I didn't go to selection or the Q course, which is the full program, but I did get accepted to get invited to selection after 3 drills that I completed with them. What you do at the 3 drills is you get tested on all of the events they'll have at selection within 3-day drills. And it is no joke. The guys that came back from selection said those 3 days, each of those 3 days were harder than selection, which is 3 weeks, because they not necessarily cram multiple events, but selection's like one event a day is tested, essentially. It's very hard. It's very ups and downs. They're like, we're going to cram all the events tested in 3 days. So you have multiple a day, and you're at our standard, not selection standard, because they want to make sure they send you and you pass, because it's a lot of shit. So they make it harder. So like, for example, our run time, we ran 5 miles, right? The Army runs 5 miles for Ranger School and such. But we did it through a terrain course, and they said, don't take your watches. You're just running. We'll
How
let you
big
know
of
when
a
you get to 5
mind fuck
miles.
is that?
Every event was no watch.
Dude,
Ruck,
like,
no watch.
something
Run,
so
no
simple.
watch.
And
Messes with you.
It's funny, when I was in the academy, like everyone during PT time, everyone has their watches. You know, you're like gauging. You're like, this is gonna end, and you're watching your watch because you're like, this is gonna end. And in the one run, I remember, I forgot, it was after like we got smoked, and like, all right, start running, and I'm like, oh, we got about 2 hours. We can't run more than 2 hours. And they're like, oh, drop your watches. I'm like, oh, we're running forever. I don't like.
Yeah.
What do I have to gauge? The sun? Well, as soon as the sun starts coming up, like, dude, it's such a mind fuck.
The whole weekend was no watch, and the Army can keep you there for 24/7 until the weekend's over. So I knew it's a drill weekend. I'm like, okay, it's 3-day drill. I get there at 7 or 8 in the morning. They have to release me sometime around 7 at night on Sunday, Friday to Sunday, but it was 24/7, no watch, day and night stuff. It was very eye-opening. I passed, so I can proudly say I got through this much of have an idea of what it takes, but like not even close to the whole course, right? But it was just, it was very, very, very hard. I was as much weight as I did today. I tried the 1,000-pound club today. As much weight as I did
What'd you
today. Guess. I was close, but I wasn't like 5 pounds away. If it was 5 pounds away, I would have slapped on 5 pounds anywhere.
I don't want to be offensive.
No, please do.
Because 1,000-pound club is it's tough, and I get away with it because I bench so much, so then it helps me with everything else. Like people will be like, "Oh, dude, 1,000." I'm like, I have an absurd bench.
Are you at like
strong,
405?
435.
Jesus.
So that gets me almost halfway there.
Yeah, that's normally
So
most
it's
people's
cheating.
deadlifts.
Yeah.
Like
So I can
that's
cheat
their biggest one. Yeah.
on the squat and deadlift, but 875.
No.
Higher?
Yeah.
960. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah, close. 965 today.
I don't know. 960.
That was my first official attempt at just like all 3 exercises. Like I'm gonna max a PR all 3 today, and that's just what I did at the gym just to see.
What was your strongest lift?
Deadlift with just under 405. It was 395. I was trying to do 405. I was just a little bit like a little iffy on it. Just
dude, deadlifts I hate deadlifts.
I've had a prior back injury. 405 is what I used to do when I was training for SF. I could do that, and still run, still rock. I couldn't do more than 1 or 2, but like that was my max then, and I was like,
max, yeah. So you only need 1.
Yeah, so then I'm repping 315s for like 10, like easy. Like that was my workouts. So yeah, just under that, 395 on that. My squat was 315. That just hurts. I was just like,
What was the bench?
The bench was 255.
Okay, that's good.
That is the first time I flat benched in a year, by the way. I have not flat benched.
Good way to tear a pec. Perfect way to tear a pec. Let's just go under this weight. I was actually talking about this. I don't remember if it was a lot. They all blend in, but like that small increase. People are like, how'd you get the 435? And I'll see them at the gym and those slap 45s on, then 25s. Then they'll remove that 45s. I'm like, oh, dude, this is going to end bad. Because like,
yeah,
it's taken me 10 years of like just focusing on bench.
So to be fair, like my chest strength has gone up significantly, but I just hadn't tested it on a flat bench.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
So like I was doing, hundreds on dumbbells, right? Like hundreds, not more than maybe reps of 6 to 8. But that's pretty good for my size. So I was like, you know what? Let's see what 220. Like I didn't jump right into 225 because that was my old max. Like 1 rep, barely make it max. So I thought I was gonna be like, oh man, I'm probably gonna get like 185. I did that, and I'm like, oh my Lord, I don't even have a spot today. We're doing 2 plates. Slapped on 2 plates, 1, 10s on each side, 5 on each side. Feeling? It was great, but I knew that I'm like, okay, it's got a limit. I mean, it's not like we're doing
no limits. Ain't no limits on the bench.
315 today. No, like that wasn't happening. But I was like, oh wow, I might actually break 250 today, and I haven't practiced it. But like I knew, I was like, I can't do too much too quick. So I left it at 255, which felt great. It was perfect. It was hard. It was like
you'll get it soon. You'll get it soon, especially if that's your goal.
Yeah,
you'll get it. Today there's no better feeling. Well, there's a lot of better feelings, but it's an amazing feeling when you just feel strong. I don't even know what that means. Feeling strong, dude. I got under the bench today. Yeah, International Chest Day, Monday. Today, this is Monday.
That's why I did it today too. Bro. That's why I was like, I'm just gonna do bench. Then I'm like, why don't I try the 1,000-pound club?
Might as well. Do it. Yeah. We're here, dude. And I get under it. I get under 315. I'm like, dude. I put the weight back. I start screaming. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. My chief and captain are working out with me. They just turn around. They're like, are you good? I'm like, I'm feeling strong, boss. Feeling strong. I'm like, oh, damn. Usually I'm like, I'm under there. I'm like, I'm going to do a couple more reps. Then I'll move up. Dude, I'd put it up. I'm like, dude, I felt so good. I love that feeling. Anyway. So how was the competition for you? Like you're in there, you're getting ready.
Yeah.
Bell ring, I don't know, bell, gunshot, whatever they decide to start, and now you're in it. What was going through your mind?
On the first one?
The first one. Yeah, because the second one,
the first one? Oh, I was nervous. There's like people watching each other too. There's like 200 competitors. So like you're not going to stand out because there's 200 people, but it's only 200. Like everybody knows each other.
So I'd stand out. 235 pounds and last. Can't miss that.
Yeah.
I'd be in the back like, ooh, hold on, guys. But,
yeah, right. But the first event was the first event of the first time doing it was so nerve-wracking because it was an event I'd never done. It was a proper 2-gun speed shooting, a proper pistol gun like speed round, and the goal was like not really small targets. It was like human size, and it was just shoot 2, do a transition as you run, shoot 2, do a transition, and I've never done that. So I'm like, oh shit. So in the games every weekend, there's 1 physical floater and 1 shooting floater. And what that means is they'll take 1 like traditional either 2-gun event or single gun event for people that are really good at shooting to gain some more points. If they're like really good at shooting, they can gain more points. And they have one that's just the physical, and you can gain more there just in the physical. Like if you're just a stud, there was like an obstacle course. I crushed that. I got like second on it out of 200 people because I'm just good at those. Thankfully, because there wasn't shooting, I was really good at that though, because I'm like, oh my God, that's an obstacle course. That's like my bread and butter. So the first event was like the shooting floater, and I've never done another gun competition. So I'm like, shit, I'm watching these guys do it. I'm watching over and over. I saw like 30 people go before me. Like, okay, he did there, he did there, he did there. I just haven't transitioned like that very much. So I'm like, oh man, just go slow. You know, like if it's not the fastest thing that you've done, who cares? My two buddies go first. Okay. One's a state trooper training for SWAT. The other one is this 6 Hour Academy's instructor. Two friends of mine. They are in front of me in line, like in our event section. The first one goes, he fucks up the order. The second one goes, he fucks up the order. So they both were like knocked really far down on points because they messed up the order of the shooting. And that one was like, hey, the whole event's like 8 seconds. So if you mess up the order, they just add a shit ton of time. They add minutes on or something like that. So I'm up next and I'm like, oh my God, I just watched two of my friends who shoot regularly F this up. I was like, here we go. Shockingly, I actually did okay at it. I mean, I was like, okay, smooth is slow, slow is fast. Like, don't rush those transitions. And so I heard his instructions. I followed the rules. I started here and went, and it was great. I was like, all right, cool. Smooth sailing.
You didn't mess up the order.
I didn't mess up the order.
That's a plus.
So that was great. So that was the first event. And then the rest of the events, all downhill after that. Every single one got harder. Well, that was the one that was the easiest physically. So we started with it, and I was like, man, I wish we didn't do that one first. Like, I wish it was towards the middle of the end, especially because if you're cold and you don't shoot, like that was my warm up, was the speed event. I was like, dang, I wish I had something else. And then every event got harder and harder throughout the day, and I was also getting more tired. It's the rest of them were like 20-minute CrossFit workouts each one, you know, all day. So they got hard, but I think the camaraderie of that small group out there is phenomenal because it's such a small sport. Like, it's growing, but it's like, I mean, you hadn't heard of it. Most people haven't until they talk to me. So it's cool.
It was in PA too, right?
Yeah. So their locations change for the regional competitions. Yeah. They have like 12 to 15 a year. And then they have a nationals out in, oh my God, I can't remember, Texas or Vegas. I can't remember. They have a nationals out there that you can qualify for, which I think it's televised, or at least they put it onto YouTube. But the regional events they have all over the country, and then they announce them in like January or February where they're going to be next year. So they do change a little bit, but they try to get some in the Northeast, some in the South, some out in the West, less in California. Gun rules and restrictions make that challenging, and they'll start in the South.
Yeah. They're trying to tax 30 cents a mile for traveling now. I saw that online.
I saw that too.
Damn.
But they'll start like February or March, and they'll start in the South. So like Florida has a competition where it's not like brutally hot, and it kind of works its way up throughout the summer. So we hit PA in May. That was the first time they'd been here since it started, which was cool. Okay. So they came back to PA, but had never been to the Ben Franklin Range before. And it was great. I met some of the guys out here like locally, and I had a lot of friends come watch, which was awesome. And we had a group of friends that competed for the first time too. So I'd like a couple friends that I coaxed in that after the first event, they're like, what the fuck did we sign up for? I'm like, you'll be okay. It's fine.
But did you die?
Yeah, it's fine. Just have a Gatorade and go take a nap. We have another event in an hour.
What was your biggest takeaway from doing that the first time? What's something you learned?
Something I learned out shooting wise, dry fire. Pistol dry fire.
So
rifle,
underrated.
Honestly, I've done so much of. I just don't lose nearly as much. Pistol dry fire, man. Holy shit. That's the biggest takeaway. But the second one is that I need to compete again. Not even in that, but that I need to have competitions in my life. I hadn't competed in something in years. I mean, since trying out for Special Forces, probably. That's a competition, kind of. I was competing against 40 people there. They narrowed it down to 4. I passed. I mean, that is a competition, but I need competition, and I don't need it because it feeds my ego. There's part of it that does, but I need it for goal setting, for getting my fitness somewhere that I want it to be, and having some camaraderie, having a trauma bond, you know. So that's what that competition gives me. Yeah.
Dude, competing actually, it's very important in any industry, like not even sports, but like pushing yourself, having that external driving factor, because a lot of people don't have the discipline to compete with themselves. They need that oh, look at that. And it's unfortunate, but that's how the world turns, you know? And having that push, that drive sharpens your tool, sharpens your sword, for lack of better terms. And if you don't have that, it's so easy to get comfortable and it's so easy to get stale in anything you're doing. Let's take law. You're a lawyer. If you're not brushing up on case law, you're not in the courtroom arguing with the other attorney, you know, presenting your narrative to the judge or whatever you call it. Like you're looking at a monitor and just reading case law. You're going to get eaten up in court or in a disposition or wherever you have to perform.
Yep.
Because you're not doing those reps. In sports, you're an NFL player. All you do is practice. You've never been in a game setting. You can practice for 10 years. Your first game, it's not like practice.
Yep.
In a fight, MMA, you see this a lot. You train in a competition. You're training in the gym with your buddies or a stranger. You're training. You're in this training environment. You're pushing. You're going hard. You might get injured. But there's nothing like stepping foot in that ring going against another human who wants to end your soul.
Yep.
Like if you're not having those reps, those competition, that external driving force pushing you to like, I need to check myself and really push myself. Mm-hmm. So easy to get comfortable and so stale.
And I have very infrequently had that comfort. I've had it under like external circumstances affecting it, but you know, I found the combination of like it will give me a purpose again within what I do when I want to do stuff for fun, when I want to work out. And again, it's a thing that if you've never competed, you got to feel that pressure and seeing how you do under pressure and feeling it is very different. And it's sometimes it's addicting and sometimes it's terrifying and you eat shit and you've never seen, like if you've never competed, you never know how bad that looks or feels. I mean, I've been feeling that since I was a child. Gymnastics is an individual sport in front of people. I remember one of my earliest memories is competing. Earliest ever. I was 4. I ate shit. I ate shit when I was 4. I remember that, you know? Is that good for you as a child? Maybe not.
I'll say there's probably some trauma there.
Probably. But I learned how to get better, you know? And I learned, I remember it motivating me. Like I remember being little and being like, I'm never going to do that again. I'd remember it like in deep down, man. And I used that and I didn't think, oh yeah, I'll go back to when I was 4. I'm never going to let that one skill, you know, of course I like surpass that. But I think it started building a resiliency layer and it started building how I react, how I feel, how my emotions come into play under pressure. And again, in the modern America, you can opt out of it. You can sit. You can. No one's going to make you do much to get by, you know?
It's minimal effort. Pressure is, I'm glad you mentioned pressure because it's such a beautiful thing. Pressure will smash you or it'll make diamonds. Mm-hmm. Pressure is pressure, you know? And how I equate that is like, we're going to experience adversity. We're going to experience challenges, obstacles, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times our environment will dictate our behavior, but how you react to that pressure will determine that outcome, you know, because, you know, we can segue into mental health, right? You know, a lot of people deal with things. And I'm not saying you should just, you know, if you think this way, you'll be fine. Because mental health is it's a crazy thing. No pun intended. Like, not to make light of it, but people react differently to different things. And there's different circumstances. For example, growing up, me and my older brother, we had the same single mom. We went to the same school. We were in the same environment. We experienced similar pressures. I was able to make it out of our life. And unfortunately, he was in and out of prison. And it's that argument of nature versus nurture. Was it his decisions or was it his environment? Mm-hmm. We came from the same thing, did the same things.
Yeah.
How is my outcome different from his?
Well, and it's when you're growing up, that's hard to determine too.
It is. It blows my mind.
There has to be an immense amount of pressure you feel as a parent knowing this, right? Like, because you don't know the kind of things that will affect the person that you take care of, right? Because if you look back, right, I mean, like, I look back and I had a lot of good experiences, a lot of tough experiences growing up, but like being in a military family was not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. You move. I was in a new school with a new friend group every 3 years. That's not easy, but I'm very social. If you can't tell now, I'm very social. I obviously learned how to make friends and, go through some ups and downs and some bumps in the road with it, but I can be very socially in tune. I think it's maybe not in my nature as much as it was because I grew up that way.
Yeah, because oftentimes you see the opposite.
Yep.
You see people cut off. Why am I going to invest and become friends with these people when it's just going to be taken away?
Yeah.
That's something you have to be very intentional with. First, you have to recognize it and be intentional with it. And a lot of times you see a lot of self-sabotage, which is something I do now. So, and I experienced it earlier today, and you don't want to let someone get too close because you're scared.
Right.
And it's like when you get checked or when you check yourself, you're like, they're doing everything right. Like they have the best intentions for me. They're good people. They have like, why am I doing this? Yep. And I don't know. I don't know. And I've talked to people about it. It is complicated. And it's frustrating because you can look at it and be like, nope, everything's working out how it's supposed to be. Why did I just react that way? Yeah. Is it my childhood? Like my friend circles, being, dudes saying, oh, I'll die for you. I'll kill for you. We're boys. And then next thing you know, they're planning on, literally this happened to me. They're trying to plan on killing you because they're threatened by you or because they didn't like you because you said something wrong. And it's like, bro, we're supposed to be boys. And you make an attempt at my life.
Yeah.
Is it that? Is it like, who knows?
Yeah.
Dude, mental health is a serious thing. And we see that with the veterans. We see it with people who grew up in certain environments, and it's funny because we see someone who's been given everything, right? Given everything. Oh, you have a mom and dad in your life. I don't have a dad in my life. Why are you struggling?
Yeah.
Well, their dad is beating them, or their dad's out of the picture, or he's an alcoholic, or it's like,
yeah,
we don't see that. We see you have a dad. You should be happy. At least you have one. Two different circumstances, two different traumas, two different experiences.
That's where it it gets me worried with guys, right? And I talked about this briefly before, but specifically like with guys, it gets me worried. And of course, like I'm gonna harp on guys because I am one. So I'm gonna say this from like all intents and purposes. This doesn't take away from the other group. Let me just start with that.
No, we're talking about us, our personal.
Right. I think some people attribute, like when you say that, it's like you're taking away from another group, and I'm like, no, well, that's not it. It's just being inclusive.
Talking from what I know, I'm a guy,
right? If I will not, have many opinions and speak on being a woman because I am not. I can see my experiences in a spouse, but that's about as far as it gets. But being a guy, I can see where those faults affect society, and I think it gets scary sometimes. And when white males are the problem, right? Historically speaking, that's pretty accurate. But when you're talking about the people today that have grown up today in the world, you're talking about mostly men that are broken boys. That's what it is. And that is, we collectively, anybody that's roughly our age, right, has not grown up in the oldest parts of our country's history. We're living right now, and there's repercussions of that. But what is happening right now that's causing guys to have the highest suicide rate, to be the people that go on school shootings the most, and to be, joining the military, and that specific subgroup is the highest rate also to kill themselves. And it's because guys, are frequently broken in different ways. And it's not looked at, unfortunately, it's not looked at like they're broken guys because damaged guys are scary. I said this to a couple, I've had this long running light experiment that I do with people over beers hanging out. It's nothing too serious or anything, but like to talk to a group of guys and girls, and I'm like, it's kind of a joke, but like crazy girls get to walk around this earth still. We have seen girls, you have seen it as a police officer, that are actually breaking laws, doing something, outright crazy, something that's unhinged behavior that will cause them to have to like face like a repercussion. Oftentimes when we talk about a, in quotes, crazy girl, it means, it doesn't mean that. But when you talk about a crazy guy, what does that mean? And me and you both know what that means. That means that a guy on that level that is emotionally unhinged, emotionally unavailable, who has anger issues, that guy is in prison. That guy isn't in the populace, or he won't be for long, right? And it's always kind of a joke that I have with like groups, because I'm like, hey, look, I mean, if there's a real crazy guy in the world within society, they are taken out of there more frequently than not, because so many more are in prison. But it's alarming. That's an alarming factor that's true, and it probably has been true historically. But they unfortunately, damaged guys are dangerous. Damaged guys are a problem. They really are. But they're not a problem like people like to view them and say, well, put them away, put them in jail, make them go away, make them be better magically. But what's the actual resources and steps to do that then? You know what I mean? It's not so straightforward as just saying, well, they're the problem, let's point the finger at them. Because if they're the problem, that means they were damaged goods probably at a far younger age from worse things. And this is their upbringing. This is the outcome they have, But I do worry about, I've had a lot of guys, friend groups and stuff, like very recently, like I've gone through a dark past here and there, and I've had people have issues like very recently close to me, and it's like alarming, having sex addictions that cause marital problems very recently, last week. I'm not going to say obviously who, but somebody that I do know very well. And that was hidden. That was hidden, like hidden in plain sight per se, but hidden to a degree that nobody knew about. And before that, there was a guy that was pretty famous. I'm not even sure how this has unraveled yet, but Mike Glover was arrested for a domestic violence incident right at the beginning of the month with a spouse, and that's like a very public figure about resiliency who's a Green Beret. And he caught himself having obviously some issue going on, so there's a track record of this. So that's like the two spectrums. One is a friend, and one is like top tier human being that's like done some serious shit for our country. Look at those problems, man. Those are damaged goods. Those are people that are good people that should be good people out here. What is happening?
Dude, I'd love to bring like a counselor or therapist on here, because those are a lot of good questions, and I can't pretend to know. I could just pretend to go off of what I know. And in talking with people and trying to better understand my upbringing, I've come to the realization that you said damaged boys. Well, yeah, as a young boy, I had to be a man. I didn't get to play in my front yard too often. I had to worry about, and I attribute all the credit to my mom. Awesome mother. She worked multiple jobs, made sure we had food on our plate. I had new uniforms for school. They weren't the name brand, but they were new, and I couldn't complain about that. I had fresh polos, fresh Dickies, which that's name brand. Had the Shacks, the fresh Shacks. I was all decked out, because my mom busted her ass. But there was a sacrifice she had to make. She had to work, so I was often left alone a lot, and I chose not the best role models to be my father figures. And be a man was always, you got to be a man. If you're going to be here, you got to be a man. What's being a man when you're 14 or 13? What is being a man? Tough, strong. But people have different viewpoints of what tough and strong is.
Yeah.
Don't cry. That's being tough and strong. Well, if you ask, like now as a more mature man, what's being tough and strong? Being vulnerable is also being tough and strong.
Yeah.
Being able to get on a platform and be vulnerable because you know where you're at.
Yep.
And not worry about how people are going to view you or people are going to say, that's being tough and strong.
Yep.
Like, what is tough and strong? You know, when I see him, when I think of a man, I think of someone who is capable of extreme violence, who has it completely under control, who has their temper and emotions in check. And the interesting is, anytime a man, and I'm only speaking out of my personal experience, loses that slightly, they grasp it, they get it. It's like, dude, he's unhinged. And it's like,
well, yeah,
I ain't perfect. Nobody's perfect.
yeah,
You know, and if we are going off the metric of perfection, we all fall short.
yeah,
And there's this passage in the Bible that talks about before you point at someone's, of course I'm drawing a blank. Before you point at someone's speck or splinter, be wary of the plank in your eye. And I'm obviously, that's the Ish translation, but it's basically saying, like, before you're so quick to call someone else about their shit, like, check yourself.
right.
And there's another passage: he who is sinless, throw the first stone.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you got it all together, show us, be about it.
Right. Exactly.
But we don't. Oftentimes we walk around like we do.
Yeah.
I gotta hold it together. I gotta do this for my family.
Isn't that crazy? Because when you're a kid, I'm not sure about you. I thought, like most kids probably, oh, he's an adult. They got it together. Now,
dude,
now that
when
we're
I
adults, we're like, Jesus
When
Christ.
I looked at a 30-year-old, I'm like, you have your own car? You have your own house? You get to make your own decisions? I can't wait to be 30. I fucking hate it here. I hate it here. I got to make big boy decisions
All the time.
Dude, I don't want a car. I'll walk. I don't want a house. I'll sleep on my buddy's couch. I don't want to make decisions. I just want to lay around all day and chill. We don't get to do that. But it's yeah, that's so funny. You're growing up, you're like, dude, they got all, and then you're 30 and you're like, you're giving kids advice. And you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
I just remembered when I started surpassing adults, I started knowing. That was weird. Like, just like I could tell, like mentally and sometimes like financially, I passed adults I knew from like my childhood, some of them family members. And I was like, how the fuck did you get this far? You know? And that's adults though. That's adults, right? There are some people become like a repercussion of, you know, going up in their life, and some at some point something can kind of stop them. It's like a ceiling, whether that's experience or whether that's their environment, whether that's trauma. It becomes a ceiling, whether emotionally, financially, whole lifestyle sometimes, and they'll kind of stop there, you know, and they'll be like that as old adults acting like they're young. And it's not because they're like full of life and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed type of shit. It's because they've like maturity level hit that peak because of an experience sometimes, you know. It's like, it's brutal to think about that, you know, from the perspective of being an adult, where you're like, me and the guy down the street that's 65 years old are equals. You know?
Have you ever heard the metaphor of the flea? So there's this metaphor, and if you put a fleas can jump super high, right? They're super small, but they can jump great distances. If you put it in a cup with a lid, and that baby flea's jumping and it continues to hit that lid, eventually you'll be able to remove that lid, and the flea won't jump higher than that. Its environment has made it believe that's as far as it can go. And I feel a lot of people are the flea in that metaphor. Like I came from nothing. And it took me breaking out of that environment, going to college, meeting some super dope people, living super dope lives. And I'm like, there's so much more world out there. I was the flea coming out of the cup like, man, it's cool out here. Why am I in here? You know? And I look back, and I can go back to Erie, and the people I hung out with, they're in the same bar stools. They're at the same places. They're in the same corners, the same blocks, doing the same thing. They've reached that peak where they believe there's nothing more for them. This is all. I didn't go to school. So what? I don't have a career. So what? There's a kid making millions reviewing toys on YouTube.
Right.
There's something out there. You just have to go for it.
There's no degree in this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there is now, but
yeah, there'll be a podcasting degree. I suck at podcasting. I like talking to people. I like learning about people. I just record it.
I think you're qualified at being good at podcasting now.
Because you can talk to people, sure. But like, dude, my mother hears one of my episodes, she will fucking kill me because of that. I just, sorry, Mom. She's like, well, dude, you're a cop. You shouldn't be swearing. Do you know what cops do? That's all we do is swear. Like, so maybe I'm not the best for everyone, but I'm the best for me. That flea metaphor, I saw it on social media or something. I was like, wow, if that isn't a metaphor for life, what you believe is true. Mm-hmm. You can't do it. That's true.
That is very true.
You can do it. You believe you can't do it. That's true.
And sometimes it does get harder as you get older, right? There are layers of that.
For sure.
Right? I mean, responsibilities crop up.
Responsibilities?
They,
what show?
They crop up and they make it, challenging. And it's not to say that you can't work around those things, but like I understand when people start to look in on it and be like, I can't. Like I get where that happens from. I think it takes having right environmental factors and you choosing some sort of deliberate action to start making choices to be in a better place where choices compound. I think the point I was at 6 months ago was pretty much, I wouldn't say all-time low. That's a little dramatic, and it definitely was not my all-time low. But it was at a low point because I had compounding issues happen. I had a health issue. I got let go from my job, and I left a startup. That was the tail end of it. But those issues together, it was just like taking L's, man. And I was like, man, this is taking L's just a couple times, in between their dumb small things. Like my car was messed up, had to pay more money while I didn't have a job, the whole deal. But it was
but that's that law of compound.
Yeah.
When that car messes up after all this is happening, that's the worst thing that's happened to you. Yeah. Of course this car would go out right now. Well,
and it's like, if you're talking about just thinking about oh, I'm stressed about money, I'm stressed about a job, and now I have another bill on top of my current bill, and it's like, I think then it's the compounding effect of L's really adds up. And then I can understand if that's years of your life. If you are 45 and you've had a stable career and everything's fine, but you are not happy, and then little things start to make things harder, and you finally want to go to the gym, and the first time you do, you want to try to do some weight, and you do, and you fucking hurt yourself. And then on top of that, your kid gets expelled from school and you got to go deal with it. I understand how that happens. Breaking that cycle is hard. But like I said, I think fundamentally, I think I've had more of a shift for myself is because I am a guy, is seeing adult guys and seeing my peers have issues. And then I've had issues and looking at it as a bigger picture of guys do not have a good time at dealing with their own issues outside of themselves, outside of doing something like this. And that's why I said I don't drink under bad circumstances anymore. When
I'm taking L's right now,
we're a great circumstance.
All right, let's drink to that. But no, you make a good point. Yeah, when all that stuff starts compounding, but people have to be aware of the law works the opposite way too. Mm-hmm. You want to get fit, whatever that means to you. Either that means 6-pack abs or being able to lift your child up and not be fatigued or exhausted.
Right.
Everyone's goal is different. You don't have to be a triathlete or a hybrid athlete.
Hey.
I had to throw that in there. We'll talk about that. But everyone's goal is different. So how does that look for you? You've never been in a gym before. The first step, start researching gyms.
Right.
Baby step. Your first step isn't max 315.
Right.
Look for gyms. What gym are you going to feel most comfortable in? Sign up or do a trial pass. That's the next step. Then it's get in your car, turn it on, and drive to that direction. Then it's walk in. Then it's pick up weights. Start with 5s, 10s, 15, 20s, wherever you're at, wherever you feel comfortable. Or maybe the first step is starting on the treadmill, getting comfortable with the environment, people watching you, everyone, because that's daunting. That's a very daunting thing. You go, even now, I can work my way around any gym, but if I go to a new gym, oh, dude, all eyes are on me. Like, are they going to judge me? I'm starting with this. Or like,
it's because he got such big arms.
Well, like, that's the thing. People look at me and be like, oh, he's starting with 135. He's all muscle, no show. He's like all this stuff creeps in everyone. I don't care if you're very experienced in the gym or it's your first time. Like, these creeping thoughts walk into your brain. But it's so easy to look at someone who's doing it and going, man, they have it all figured out. And it's so easy for those who appear that way to look at someone walking in and being like, what's that person doing at the gym?
Unfortunately, I've done that.
I've done it
when I was younger.
Yeah, and I'm like...
And I was a lifelong athlete, and I did that. But guess what? I've never even been the biggest guy in the gym. And
Were you a hybrid athlete, though?
I've always been a hybrid athlete.
Okay, just confirming. People are like, where's Ish going with this?
Yeah, they're like, what the hell are they talking about?
We'll get there. But... yeah, it's these small steps, and those small wins compound. Those small wins build upon each other. I look back now and I'm like, I've been going to the gym like consistently with a plan and a course of action for over 15 years. So when I was like 15 or 16.
Yeah, same.
So about 15 years.
I've been weightlifting consistently since 16.
Yeah,
not always.
No,
as good as I do it now.
Yeah, but you have your valleys and stuff.
I've learned.
It's the process. It's like losing weight, right?
Yeah.
People want to lose weight. They start eating better and going to the gym, and then what's the first thing they do? What's the metric for losing weight? The scale.
Typically the scale, yeah.
Oh, let me stand on the scale. Man, I was 160 yesterday. I'm 161 today. What?
Yeah.
So they hit it harder. Oh, I'm 154. I'm 154 this week. Oh, that's good. They go in 3 days. 157, and then 2 months, 150. 2 weeks later, 153.
Yep.
Well, I'm 153, dude. I'm supposed to be losing weight. Next month, 147. Then 150.
Yep.
Then 140. You're progressing. You look at the everyday and you're going up and down, up and down. But if you look at the span of your journey, you're moving forward.
That was like the whole thing of my test today. Like the 1,000-pound club was like, that was kind of like my test. I don't do those specific exercises deliberately every week. I move a lot of weight when I can, and sometimes I do a lot of mobility. And I'm very good at feeling and understanding what my body is from doing so much.
I'm mobile as fuck. If you can tell. That's my mobility from my shoulders.
But like I had, I've just learned how to like adapt and like feel, like really truly feel when the time of going harder is, or when the time is not, and when I need to kind of get more mobile. And because I've gone off of feel, I still make plans, but checking out those big lifts, I'm like, well, let's just try them, because I'm working so much of my body regularly. It's always been consistent. I'm never like, the only times I'm not consistent, I have hurt myself, and it's been under like extreme work, but yeah, it's those compounding losses, like I get where people get to, man, but like the crutches guys have, man, like our deep down, not even desires, but our deep down tendencies are, I think it's rough for girls and for women to see and understand, because it's tribal, and it's very much a lizard brain. And man, if you put it in a bad place, it is fucking terrifying. It really is terrifying. But if you put it in a good place, it is a warrior, it is a father, it is a person that cares, and they can do well. Don't put it in this. I know that we're having a drink. We're having under good circumstances.
But that's the perfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not having a good day. Do I need this?
Right.
Probably shouldn't do that, because I know when I have bad days and then I follow up with this, it leads to worse decisions.
That's exactly it.
Dude, as a cop, one thing I appreciate so much is when people talk to me. Because I've been in this profession for a while, and I've worked alongside some people, for example, DUIs. Oh, here's John again. That's not a real name. I'm using a moniker. Here's John again, dude. Dude's a drunk. DUI. They treat him like shit. And I see my family members who have dealt with addiction, who have dealt with this stuff, who I've continued to pour in, and I've luckily have seen their life change at different times. You know, sometimes it's the 15-year-old going down the bad path and he turns 17 and then he's on the right path. Sometimes it's the 35-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we as people are so, and there's a fine line of like pouring yourself into someone who's just taking advantage of you, who's just like, you're like, man, this is a lot of energy. It's starting to affect my personal life. It's starting to affect me physically, emotionally, mentally. Like, that I understand. But like, that stuff doesn't affect me. I have not enjoyment, but I find enjoyment. Yeah, I find enjoyment and I have a passion in helping people. You aren't taking from me when I'm like trying to help you out, get your story and stuff. And I talk to these guys and I learn, dude, like this John guy, you know, he's like, you know, and I'm speaking hypothetically, but I'm also pulling from real stories. And it's people who, you know, the one was a vet.
Mm-hmm.
The one was a vet. And he had a post and he wanted to sleep. So his buddy took his post. Something happened. His buddy's no longer here. It's his fault. He truly believes it's his fault. And I'll be that dude on the bench near the cell with my feet up, literally talking to this. I have to watch him. Mm-hmm. We have to watch our quote unquote prisoners. I'll be that guy talking like, bro, like, why do you believe it? Well, I was supposed to be there. But you weren't. Your buddy took that. He wanted to do that. That was his decision. You can't own that. You can't take that from him. Like, he did that. Right. You can't take it from him. You're doing your buddy a disservice. Dude, I spoke to this dude for hours. It was just me and him. Me and him in the basement of my old apartment. We're talking, and dude's crying. I'm trying to hold in my tears because, like, as a cop, you can't cry in front of this guy, you know? I'm like, dude, I left and I sat in the fucking dark in my living room after shift, just like thinking like people threw this dude in the cell and would have left him in there.
Yeah.
He would have left. He'd have continued his path.
Yeah. And he's got a demon there haunting him.
Yeah. And
he literally has a demon haunting him.
I'm like,
you know what I mean?
I hope this conversation truly, I never saw that dude again. I never, on a traffic stop, on a call, never arrested him for DUI again.
Hopefully.
So I'm like,
because something happened. I don't know. Hopefully.
I'm like, you know, did that change his course? Did it not? Like, what did that take from me to do? I didn't lose anything. I mean, I was hurt because I was trying to meet him where he's at.
Yeah.
But like, what energy did that take from me? Having an intentional conversation. I love to talk. I'm Puerto Rican. That's what I do anyway. I'm a talker. What did that take from me? Nothing. What did he gain from that? Maybe no one ever had that conversation with him.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone's had that conversation with him. He fucking left, went to another town, did it anyway. I don't know. I know I feel better. I know I live with myself going, you know, I tried.
You did what you can do.
Yeah, I did what I can do. If people quit on me when I was growing up, I'd be dead. I don't say that lightly. My daughter saved my life, and people who poured into me saved my life. I'd be dead. We hear that a lot, and it's so... I never saw... You know how people go, when I grow up, I want to be this. I want to do... I never saw past 18. Yeah. I was like, if I make it to 18, I'll be all right. I'll be good. I never had... But it took people pouring into me and me shitting on them intentionally.
You hate to see it because I've done that too.
I don't need you. I know the best for me. Who the fuck are you to tell me how to live my life? Yeah. You know? And it's so easy for people to go, all right, you'll learn. Boom. I'm so thankful they never did.
Yep.
So I owe it to them to do that for someone else at any opportunity I can. It doesn't take from me. And my family and my friends, they'll look at me and be like, dude, why are you even bother? Because I give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not losing anything.
Right.
People are like, I just can't deal with people like this. Okay, that's taking a strain on you. I understand that. You need to back off and focus on yourself. That doesn't happen to me. I don't find an issue with that personally on my end.
Do you do you get a lot of purpose in your job? Because I know there's a lot of monkey business per se, in
Do
general.
I get a lot of purpose?
Yeah, in your full-time job. Because I mean, this brings like purpose in like a different way. I don't get exposed to those environments in quite the same way when I work my desk job at home. You know what I mean? So I would imagine that even despite the hassles and the obviously the danger of it too, which is a whole different level there, but it's got to bring some sort of purpose. It's a fucking challenging job, man. I mean,
dude, I find
such a challenging job.
Even so we're in my real estate office right now. I have conversations with my manager all the time. Oh, when are you going to leave? When are you going to become full-time? We'd love that, And hopefully she doesn't listen to my podcast, but I'm like, oh, one day. The truth of it is, I don't see myself leaving this job.
It'd be hard to.
Because in my mind, it's like I care so much. If I remove myself, who's going to be that person to care as much as me? And that's not being egotistical or like cocky about it, but like I know how much I care. Mm-hmm. And I'm yet to find someone who gives a fuck to my level. So if I leave, then like who's doing it? And that's not the healthy way to look at it. But I find pure enjoyment in helping people. And there's sometimes when the dude calls for the raccoon for the 5th fucking time that's not sick, then I'm like, bro, deal with the raccoon. Like, why are you calling us for this? But then I check myself, I'm like, this is the worst thing that's happening to him. He's having a good fucking day. If this is the worst thing that's happening to him, he's having a good day.
Exactly.
Then I check myself. I get in my car and I'm like, I'm upset because I shoot a raccoon away. Go. A raccoon scurries off. That's what I'm pissed about. I'm having a good day. Like, if that's the worst, because I could be dealing with a suicide or a domestic or a nasty car crash, and those things take a toll. I'm dealing with a raccoon right now. Why am I pissed? Like, so it's that checking yourself.
Yeah.
It's very important to check yourself. So I do find a lot of fulfillment, and it's an important job for me. It's something I never would have saw myself doing. Growing up, I was like, there is no way I would ever be a cop. Like, with my past, with my connections, like, they're going to look at me and be like, take this dude to jail. Like, he ain't coming in here. And jokingly, I applied to the LAPD, and then there was like a question of a lie detector, and I was like, cancel application. Like, can't do that. And then the older I got, I'm like, man, I think this is something, I always watched cops as kids. I'm like, blue, red, what you gotta do? I'd go to sleep to it. I'm like, man, that's so cool. And now I'm a fucking cop. I'll be driving sometimes. I'll look, I'm like, they really gave me a badge. Like, damn, somebody's getting fired because they let me do this job. But I also try to bring fun to the job. I'm the type of dude, I roll with a dude. I get him handcuffed and I'm like, are you okay? Do you feel better now? Fuck you, get off. That's not nice. Come on. Like, we're done. You lost. I understand. You don't like me. Fuck you. I'm going to rape your kids. Don't bring her into it. Like, because you have to.
Yeah.
And there's times where I do get them to laugh. I'll get the dude to laugh. And by the end of it, they're like, bro, if I was going to get arrested by anybody, I'm glad it was you. I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment. Don't say what's up to me if you see me in public, but I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh my God.
But how do you manage everything you do? You were going through this dark time. You're drinking, so you climbed out of it, and now it seems like you're back on the horse. You're pushing for things. What's Ethan up to now?
Yeah, I think it was like I said, the dark period I've had and the periods I've had before that that were not pleasant. Generally speaking, I mean, they really do come from a place of like, similar non-environmental factors that we grew up with, but similar to places that we're at in the sense that I don't have a fallback plan. And so when I was taking those compounding L's, it was like I make my own money and I have literally no help, And so it became very stressful and very apparent to me that I needed to like make some adjustments. So I think the place that I'm at now is understanding that I want to be the best version that I can be at the right time. And sometimes that means taking layers away. If I want to train for the tactical games and I want to have a career where I can have some sanity, not have 10 meetings a day, and I want to have good friendships, I had to physically make some adjustments that I didn't like doing. I left the startup I was in, and that was one of those adjustments of a few that I had to look back and say, this isn't the place that I want to be at. This isn't the place that I want to be going. And it's hard, right? It's like, you're like, oh,
kind of what happened in the military.
Yeah.
This ain't for me right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, it was a level of finding myself feeling selfish to say, oh, well, I'm not happy. I need to go do something different. But then it's like, well, how am I affecting other people if I'm not happy here doing the same deal? And so I had kind of a blank slate though, right? It was like an interesting time at the beginning of this year because I had no job. I was intentionally walking away from a startup. Luckily I had saved money, so I was not financially going to be like totally floundering right now. But I got to sit down and really dig deep, dig like really deep into like, what do I want to be doing? What do I want to be doing? I like working in the creative space. I want a stable job that can provide me the ability to find the next thing that I want to do. I'm not sure what that is yet. But along that path, I've kind of found that I started a podcast with Will. I've super enjoyed that. That was the thing I was going to start no matter what happens, out of a creative outlet that has no monetary tie.
The Above Average Podcast.
Above Average Podcast.
That's dope. I was on it. Go check my episode. I'm not above average, but I was a guest.
You were a very, very early guest on, and I appreciate the hell out of you being on. And it was a weird, seriously dark time of like digging and understanding that, those parts that I want to change are just going to have to be an iteration to get to a spot that I feel better at and a spot that I want to be at, feel comfortable moving on to. To answer that question a little bit more, I know that you came back to how do I do it all, and it's funny because the thing is I'm not doing as much. I'm pulling a lot of layers down, and being more transparent, I still have an entrepreneur flame in me, and I want to use it to be a storyteller. I don't know exactly where that's going to be yet, though.
See, but that's okay.
And that's hard for me to be okay with that.
That's
right?
hard for a lot of people to
crazy.
be okay.
It's crazy to say that, but like taking a full step back and being like, you know what? We're going to have to relook at everything. That was fucking hard, But, and that's why I can appreciate you being honest about that, because you could have easily, well, I'm doing this, because you are taking on projects, but it's not what you're doing, right? Right now you're evaluating your life. You're shedding fat for our fitness folks. You're trimming, I don't know what accountants use, but what you're doing is you're evaluating your life and you're making necessary changes, and that is okay. We as people, if it's not progress, it's digress. Mm-hmm. I speak 2 languages. It's so easy for us to get in that funk, especially as an entrepreneur, right? If it's not green, it's red. There's also black. Yeah.
Like there's okay to be in the middle while you're figuring things out. It's okay to be in the red while you're figuring things out. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of life.
Right.
I haven't found someone who's got it figured out yet. You're my 40th guest. Not one person's come on here and been like, I lived the perfect youth. I lived the perfect young adult, and I'm on the perfect path as an adult. Like,
they might be delusional if you ever find them.
Yeah. And I'll be like, well, we have nothing to talk about. Thank you for coming on. I found the guy, but, or the girl, but life is so beautiful in the sense that just because something doesn't work out doesn't constitute as a failure.
Right.
If you don't try to learn from it, sure, it's a failure.
Right.
If you try to pull lessons out of that, and that's going back to that pressure, that external, you can't control what happens to you. Life is a motherfucker. I love her. She's a bitch.
Yeah.
She's going to do what she does. Or he's going to do, I'm not gendering life. Well, now here's my cancellation for real. But life is going to happen, and it's how you react to it. Life happens to everyone. Life is good to some, not so good to others. The one it's bad to, people bounce back from. The one it's great to, people fall.
Right.
It's how you react. And when we start looking at life as a destination, this is where I want to be. Boom. It's a dangerous thing. Because it's a constant journey. It's a constant reevaluation. It's a constant movement. I know people starting new careers at the age of 40.
Right.
Fucking Amazon was started at the age of what? The dude was 30?
Yeah.
From a garage? Now we look at him on all the magazines. He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. Bro, started in a garage. How many times did you think they experienced failure? How many times did you think they, because they're married at the time, did they look at each other and they go, we got to fucking stop this, dude. We're losing money.
Right.
We're losing our sanity. Now they're one of the biggest companies in the world.
And it's like, when I don't put no goals in the future. I'm just very realistic with the fluctuation of them, but also just they're sort of like big pieces of where my life stability will be as a broad stroke, because the older I've gotten, the more I've realized I don't know shit. And it becomes like, it's so linear when you're 18, right? When you're out of high school, at least to me, what I saw from my parents, they were together in high school. They got married. They had me very young in college, but they went to college, got jobs, right? So it's like, just did the thing, super set out. Do you want to check something real quick?
Yeah, keep going. Our audio, it's still recording over there. Our audio cut off because I didn't delete the previous episode, but it's on there. Life happens. Speaking of life, I should be freaking out right now. When that goes out, maybe I will.
We're good.
Yeah. But no, sorry, keep going.
But I think that's why as I've gotten older, lesser and lesser do I like hold expectations and value to goals, because it's okay that they change. And this was one of those abrupt parts. Like the Army, it was okay that it changed, but I was ready for it. This one, I wasn't really ready for it. And that was kind of the difference. But what happens when you've done some iterations of life, as you just get older, we sound like we're fucking old, but like the path is not so easily carved.
In street years, I'm 60. Straight up, 60.
It's not such an easy carved path. And I think people's expectations get let down, if you've had, let's just call, relatively speaking, an easier life, very, very good support systems, your expectations are really high off the bat. And you will walk into the world that doesn't care about those expectations, and the economy doesn't care what happens, or the country you live in doesn't care, or the laws don't matter for what expectations you might have, And so I've been at peace more now than I probably have been in the last couple years, which is what I'll say. So to summarize this for all of the people here is that it wasn't, it wasn't so much that I have something going on right now, and for the first time I probably don't. And I've had a lot of things going on for many years, and they've compounded for me to learn a lot. And because of that learning, I've kind of structured myself with saying, time for the next iteration, going into it with much naturally a better positive ability and outlook because of all the stuff I've done in the past.
One of the pastors that I listen to, he always ends his service with, the best is yet to come. And I think this fits your life perfectly, because for you, it's so easy for someone looking in to go, dude was doing all this. Now he ain't. Yeah. What's going on? And for you finally reached a place to be quiet and really be able to think. Because when you're dealing with this project and this project and this and this and this and this, you're not really thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about the next move. You're just like, you're thinking about the next move for this and for that and for this. But you're not really thinking like, where am I going?
Yep.
So then I can take all this with me.
And to be also just a little bit specific, like within those dark times when I said I was having some health conditions, I was having them from stress. I was having severe stomach problems sleeping, panic attacks, uncontrolled. At some point, you got to make some adjustments, right? And I can shockingly deal with those, but eventually something else worse will happen, right? So if that's not your body telling you something that's there, listen to it. And I took some internal advice to listen to that, and I was having, kind of compounding L's, But it was a time for me to say, okay, we're going to take something out of this and we're going to take off some layers. And I'm honestly, at this point, I've never been happier, man. It's great.
That's awesome.
It's great to be happy.
And now
most
you get
days.
to share
like most days I wake up happy. Like it's fantastic, you know?
Man, what a nice feeling. I'll let you know when I get there. No, okay. Self-deprecation. What a beautiful thing. So, but now you get to share these stories with other people on your podcast. How's that been going?
Yeah. So, our podcast, the Above Average Podcast with Will Marshall, he's
that's his logo.
It actually is our logo. Yeah. With like a dude with a hat on. Yeah. It's super broy. It's awesome.
I'm just going to hold this while you speak.
It's, we do something similar to you, I guess, in the sense that we do tell stories of people's interest. It's very much connected to fitness. And I have another co-host. So that's the only difference. There's two co-hosts, not one.
I only need one. No, I'm kidding.
No, but
it's so much better to have someone else.
We lean a little bit more into our sports background.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And we connect that a lot to fitness people. And it's not just fitness people, but people that are as our slogan is that I made up on the air one time, above average in mindset and action. It's because you don't need to be Mr. Olympia to be above average. You can be an average person, but average person means it's sort of the attitude you have and the things that you do. The things that you do aren't always seen. And some of these people have been seen, are seen, are going to be seen for their actions that they do every day. And, I'm starting with my network and people here, and it's funny. It's one of the like least stressful creative outlets I've had in so long. I mean, I get to conversate and I get to have fun with it, and the lack of pressure has just made it, I think, organic and hopefully grow.
Dude, I love it because if you're listening to me, you probably like me. You know? Yeah. You
same.
Right? So like there's no pressure of like, yeah. I just have to be me.
Yeah.
The only time you get checked is when you step outside of your zone or what you know, and I try to talk about what I know or my personal experience. I'll never pretend to be something I'm not or talk about something I don't know, because if I don't know, I'll say it. Like I've had people on here going off about MMA camps. I dabbled. I don't know shit about camps. I don't know shit about cutting weight. I don't know, like, obviously, I don't know anything about cutting weight, but I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm here to learn, you know, and I'm just me, you know. I can be serious, but most times I can't, you know. I got to throw a joke in there, and people like that. So, like, if you're following me or listening to me, you probably like me. So there's no pressure of like, whoa. But when you start to pretend to be someone you're not, now that's where that pressure comes in. Yep. And now you're worried about, man, what are people going to think? If you're one of the 103 YouTube subscribers, you probably like what I'm saying, or think I'm funny,
and
or think I'm cute. No, I'm kidding.
All the above.
But all the above. No, you're probably like like the conversations I'm having or the people I've had on. Man, Ethan's an interesting dude. I'm going to listen to his episode. I don't know Ish, and I ain't going to listen to any other episode. But he's an interesting dude. I followed him on his... Cool. Like, I want to talk to everyone. I'm not going to talk with people... Like, either you have the same view, different view, you know more than me, less than me. Like, everyone's welcome because everyone has a story to tell. That's the beauty of this podcast. Like, it's... If you have a story to tell, I'm willing to listen.
And you've done a phenomenal job at the podcast, by the way. I do give a lot... It takes a lot of props to, like, really... know what you're dabbling in with this kind of stuff too, specifically. I mean, some people, dude, that's so intimidating. Like if you're not in a media background, like I was in a media background. I'm like, oh, I know what to buy. You know, it's fine. But like, that's intimidating to be like, oh my God, I got to buy equipment and figure it out. I mean, that's a lot, dude.
I spent so much money figuring it out because the only, I guess, experience I have, I used to produce music back in the day. Don't go looking for it because you'll never find it. But so I kind of knew about microphones and audio interfaces, but like that's not what a podcast really needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're not going to get this type of microphone for a podcast. You're not going to get that. So I got like sound interface and then a couple cloud lifters, and then I'm like, man, that ain't the best process because then my laptop shit the bed the one time, old laptop. So I'm like, I need something to like fix that. So then I got a mixer that records also in there. And well, now this shit to bed and the laptop's doing good. So it's like you got to create that system that checks and balances in those fail safes. And you only do that through learning or finding someone who's already done it.
Yep.
You know, so like, you know, when you were talking about yours, I'm like, oh, dude, you got to get a mixer with a fight that records in it, dude. You're not gonna regret that. And then you got a whole different mixer. I'm like, dude, that one's cool. Like, why did I get this one? Yours is so much cooler. And then you got those pod mics.
Same, but different sometimes.
Like, dude, those pod mics sound just as good as mine. Why didn't I'm like, dude. So,
but I took your advice, you know, and I talked to my other co-hosts, and we were gonna split the bill, you know, and I didn't have a job at the time, so I was like, I had to be conscious about this. I'm like, okay, best bang for your buck, and we got to try it out real quick. And if it doesn't work, fuck, I'm gonna return it. We're gonna try it again.
I hate returning stuff. You talk about fear. I hate going back and being like, hey, I'm sorry, I changed my mind. Like,
there's nothing wrong with it, but please take it back.
It's not for me. They just look at you like, you broke. I'm not broke, really. I'm not broke. It's just not for me. I don't know why I get so weird about returning. I will lose the money. And there's other people who be like, return it. I'm like, you could just do that? And they're like, yeah, bro, return it. But it's food. You can return it. You can return food? I don't know. So, what's your podcast? You said, what's the tagline? Average?
Above average in mindset and action. Yeah.
Cool. And name one guest that, boom, I just said that and someone came in your mind. Who was that?
Tanner from The Bachelor and The Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, dude, I saw that. Yeah, I saw you just posted a clip about him.
Yeah.
Dude, how was that?
I wanted to throw that one out. We have fantastic guests. We've had a ton of fantastic guests,
dude,
but
they're all awesome.
That one was interesting because I've never talked to somebody on that show in person and behind the scenes. And he gave us some behind the scenes. It wasn't off camera. There was a little bit more, but generally speaking,
I know all about it. I auditioned for Real World and got it.
What?
And found out. I'll put them on blast right now. I don't even think they're running anymore. All scripted. All 100%. Not saying The Bachelor is. I'm not diving into that because they're very powerful and still gone. The Real World, totally scripted.
Really?
Oh, 80%.
Ooh,
they're basically like, hey, I like your style.
Yeah.
This is what you do. We're gonna create this situation and see how it works.
Well, the thing I liked about the one with Tanner, which was recent, not my most recent one, but what was interesting is I was friends with him before, so it was fun. It was interesting to talk to a person that I knew from Pittsburgh that was friends from the fitness industry. Me and him did photo shoots together, and then he goes on the show.
What kind of photo shoots?
You know, don't worry about it.
Y'all got OnlyFans? Plug it in right now. People will love to know. You got OnlyFans, Ethan? You can make a lot of money.
Has there been an offer? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There's
40 grand is his starting rate. I take 10%.
But he was interesting because that's just going on a TV show is a unique experience. But he comes from Pittsburgh, so I can relate. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I've lived here, and I've known him before, and then I got to know him after, and he's working in the fitness industry now. So that was like just a bizarre one because I'm like, I'm curious what he's going to talk about. I mean, he'll talk about it, but I'm like, he just got back from that show, like within like a few months. So I'm like, well, this will be interesting.
You know what I learned from there? Correct me if I'm wrong. The rose ceremony is like 6 hours long. It's like stupid long.
Yeah.
Because of all the angles and stuff. And well, I won't go into that because I don't want to get a cease and desist or something, but we'll talk about it after. Another thing I heard from an in, and I was like, why? That makes sense why that chick is still there when she should have been eliminated episodes. I don't watch this stuff. I learned about it online.
Okay. So on that episode, I asked him and Will a question. I don't know if you watched the episode or not. What show would you be on right now? If it doesn't have to be a dating show, just reality TV show. Let's call it that. Which is kind of broad a little bit, but
dude, you shouldn't have asked me that because I've thought about this. Like, what show would I do? The Rock's Titan show.
That's a good one. I know someone that went on there.
I'm like,
that's cool.
I wouldn't do very well, but I want to push myself. I would want to act. I've always wanted to be an actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would want to act in like like an action comedy.
Yeah, okay. So not like a reality TV show.
No, because then people really get to know me, and like I can't take that shit serious. Like hypothetically, if I was on a dating show, right?
Yeah.
And I don't get picked, the producers are gonna be like, "Hey, you got an," or I get picked. Hey, we got to do an interview. I'd sit and I'd probably be tequila the fuck up. I love tequila.
And they just feed it to you.
Yeah. So like, and when I auditioned for the Real World, they put me in an open bar and they're like, "Hey, drink, enjoy. Producers are going to pull a couple people back at a time. Like, don't worry about it." I'm like, I forgot I was auditioning. We're playing drinking games.
I bet, but you would have found out later.
Yeah. So I actually got pulled to the back, but I've told this. I'll go into this. I get pulled to the back. Me, this dude, and some chick. And I'm young and dumb. I'm in my junior year, and I'm like, free booze. I'll let your mind go there.
Let's go.
Dude, I'm back there. We're all standing, and I'm like this, and I'm like trying to like look at them. I'm like, oh, I'm back here, dude. I didn't think I was gonna get back here. I'm fucking back. I thought I was getting free booze and going back. So I'm like this. And they're like, they gave us a scenario. They're like, okay, like you and him have gotten really close in the house. You and her have been dating. You really like her. You find out they've been messaging, and he's really trying to get with her, but he's your boy. I'm like, bet, got this in my head. I'm like, and they're like, go. And there's like a white room. They're sitting at a table like this. And
Armbar.
it's 4 dudes just sitting. Bro, I shoved this dude with everything in my mic. I literally turn to him, fucking shove him. And I'm like, you fucking piece. I go off on this dude. He like lands and he like props up. He's looking at me like, what the hell is going on? And I'm going off. And in my head, I'm like, what am I doing? And I look at the girl. I'm like, and you? I expected that from you. I'm not even mad at you. And I go off on him again. And I go up to him, dude, we're going. And then finally the dude picks up on what I'm doing. He's like, bro, no, you got to understand. Like, it's not what it looks like. It's not. I'm like, oh, yeah, what about those fucking text messages? I'm like, dude, she showed me everything. You're stupid as fuck for showing me. And I'm going off. And the chick didn't say a fucking word. This is what pisses me off. The chick didn't say a word. I leave. I slam the door. I wait a second. Turn around. And I go, and scene. And these dude, they're fucking cracking up. Because I as much as I'm serious, I can't be serious. And they're like, okay. They're like, didn't know where you were going with that. I thought I had to get security in here, but I was like, no, he really did fuck my girl though. And they're like, and dude looked at me. I'm like,
I'm just kidding.
I was like, that's why this was so cool, like so ironic. And the dude's like, I didn't fuck his girl. I'm like, no, he fucked my girl. And I'm going with it. I'm like, I'm kidding. He didn't fuck my dude. I'm like wasted. Anyway. I end up getting called a couple months later, and then, dude, you get a contract like this. They want access to your phones, your call records. I'm like, dude, I had to miss senior year of college. I'm like, probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what show would I go on? Oh, I'd get pulled in, and they'd be like, hey, like, how's your experience at the house? And I'd be like, oh, y'all feeding me? Y'all giving me drinks? This is cool. Everyone here's cool. The dudes are awesome. Like the dudes are cool. Well, how about Jessica? Oh, she's cool. She's cool. Don't know if that's gonna last, but she's cool. Like they'd be like, get this dude off the air. Like we need to get him gone. Like I would just try to make it so awkward.
I'm gonna plug this on your podcast too, but I would go on Survivor. And it's because I've already turned in a tape, but I want to go on Survivor so bad.
Did you audition? You're about to go
I
on?
turned in an audition already.
So, I know Survivor's record for fastest fire start. Heidi, she's from Pittsburgh.
Oh, she is. I don't know her, but she is from Pittsburgh. Oh man,
I'll connect y'all. So a guy,
it'd be cool to have her on a podcast.
I've been talking to her. She's like, yeah, let's do it. Going to Japan. Well, can't do it from Japan. Well, let's do it. Going to this. I'm like, you just hit me up when you're ready. But Heidi, I hope you're listening to this.
I would do a whole let's talk about Survivor podcast. I would love that.
How about this? Bring me back. I'll bring her, and we just talk shit about Survivor. Like good stuff.
Done.
That'd be cool.
That works.
Well, catch me on the Above Average Podcast 2.0. So a guy had on here, he has a celebrity basketball game for charity that he does, and he invites a bunch of like people from Big Brother, Survivor, Roberto Clemente Jr. They all play this game, and she was in it. That's where I met her. She's Puerto Rican.
She is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I watched that season. It was like 2 or 3 seasons ago. It was kind of recent.
Bro, I'd die. Like, we ain't got steak. We ain't got.
I would love Survivor, dude. I don't know my favorite thing, and this is gonna come to haunt me if I go on the show. My favorite thing in the fucking planet is watching people cry in the rain on that show because people confidently go out there and have no idea that the elements, just a little bit of bad days, hurts bad.
Dude, what do people do when it rains here? Oh, let me go inside.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
But from the Army, you were in the Army. I'm not sure how many days in the field that you've done. I've done 400 days in the field total.
Not that many.
I've done 400. Do you know how many were sunny? Not 400. I'll put it that way.
Probably 4.
Probably like a handful of weeks.
And the other tiers were everyone else crying because we were getting smoked.
Yep. But
do Survivor, that'd be cool.
But
I'd do something like a
I would
challenge.
love that. A challenge is a close second, but Survivor, I just the legacy of that show, that's like a childhood show for me. I'm like, man, that show's still going and Jeff still looks amazing. I'm like, I think that dude's anti-aging just on TV. I don't know how,
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I think I'd do good. Dude, I know a lot of useless facts. And I heard they give you like a bunch of stuff to study. I don't know how to study, but I'd look at it and like I'd go on the show and dude, you have 25% chance.
Mine as well.
I like my odds. I've done a lot more for a lot less. But yeah, while we're on that, so if you can give young Ethan advice, you right now give young Ethan advice, life advice, what would you tell him?
Ooh, that's tough. Okay. It's kind of hard to say this, but honestly, I don't think I'd give him shit for advice.
God, you ruthless motherfucker.
Because I wouldn't be the person I am now if I didn't do what I did, right? And I find it hard to alter with that perception of that young person to the point that it wouldn't make me who I am. But I don't know. At the same time, there's some things that I would say that I'd want them to do. Honestly, take more risks. Take more risks is what I would say. I took a lot of risks growing up. I didn't work a job for many years. I worked as a professional high diver. I went and joined the Army. That was a risk. I like to do adventurous things. I don't ever want to stop doing that. I would even tell that younger person, take more, but just take more risks that are a little bit more deliberate, Don't just have fun doing it. Take a look at what you're doing. Make it a good risk. Like roll the dice on something like worthwhile, That's what I'll probably say. Because I don't want to alter me. I don't want to alter me right now.
No, that's a good point. I'm a huge believer in we go through things because we have to.
Yep.
A lot of times we want to be strong, right? And then when we're put in situations that require strength, we don't want it.
Yep.
When I need more patience. When our patience is tested, we don't take advantage of that. We ask for all these things, and when we're given the building blocks for it, we're so quick to be like, no. So I'm a huge proponent of like embrace the suck, right? Everyone's military, embrace the suck, but
or if you just even want to take that down or not, just embrace what you are given.
Yeah,
just embrace
seriously,
that.
Like you get put through things, and it's that how are you going to react to it? A relationship, you're in a deep relationship and it ends. You're like, what the fuck? I loved this girl or this guy. She or he was everything to me. We were supposed to do this. We were supposed to do this. You've planned your future. You've planned everything. And now it's gone. Now you're lost and you're clueless and you see her with another. Why am I dealing with this? If you had the ability to fast forward the tapes, see where you end up, and go, oh, dude, this person I'm with now just understands me so much better. Like pushes me, gives me purpose. And like, I didn't have that. I thought I had it. I thought I had a grasp of it, But now that I see this, I understand so much better. If we had that ability to fast forward, we'd go, you know what? I got to go through that.
Yep.
Put me back.
Well, and like I said, it's a kind of a BS answer to say that, but like I wouldn't change much, right? Like I wouldn't change much to my younger self. Like let him have those trials and tribulations. You know, I wish I could watch it, maybe be supportive somehow, but besides that, I mean, you're gonna fucking do it. You're gonna be fine. You will. You're gonna be okay.
That's what I would tell myself. I would go back.
That's probably it. You're gonna be okay.
You will make it out of that.
Yep.
Whatever it is. I'm a testament that what you're going through, it's gonna pass. Mm-hmm. Dude, because there's been times I've been in situations where I'm like, this is it. There's nothing else for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, and those times are so pivotal.
Yep.
All it takes is one decision for your life to be altered.
Yep.
You know, I would go back and tell myself,
or a bad one.
I'd tell myself like, one foot in front of the other. Whatever you're going through, you make it through.
I told myself this, and this is like slowly becoming my own personal motto as I retrain for tactical games again and again and again. Don't be soft. And I don't mean this in like a man egotistical way, but like I told myself that trying out for special forces. I told myself that going through hard stuff. For some reason, I would literally say to my head, don't be soft. Ruck in the middle of the night, all night. Don't be soft. Don't be soft.
Be hard.
No, but for real, just don't be soft. Like under like delusion of no sleep and shit. I would just tell myself that because it's like if you can just tough it through those hard times, sometimes you gotta just tough it through. It's gonna callous you. That's what it's gonna do. You know, it's just like doing reps at the gym. It's gonna get you stronger. But don't be soft. Just put your head down and you're going to be all right.
I love metaphors. There's this metaphor about bulls, or buffalo, rather. When a storm is approaching, the buffalo turn towards the storm and start walking. And the cows walk away. Well, that storm is moving. It'll always be on you.
Yep.
If you try to run away from these issues, these problems, they're going to follow you until you approach them head on. And with the buffalo, I've learned, and I don't know if this is true or not, saw it on a post, but as you approach the storm, you're going through it. So you're going to be in the storm a lot less than if you try to run away from it, because you're approaching it head on. You're dealing with it. Crazy, dude. All these metaphors from animals, fleas, buffaloes. But I think in that because like with life, it's so complicated. You know, you're like, man, how am I supposed to, my wife just left me. How am I supposed to approach that head on?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? But you start thinking like a buffalo. Oh, he's just going through there. Okay, cool. This is something I have to experience. All right, this sucks. Yep. This is what it is. What's the next step? Put the bills in my name.
Right.
Or I got to move out or whatever it is. Like approach. You can be like, oh, why is this happening? Stick there. There's no movement happening. There's no progress. You're in the storm. She'll come back. She'll come back. She'll come back. She'll come back. You're walking away from the storm that's just following you, and you're going to be in this place for a lot longer instead of this is what it is right now. Okay. It sucks. No one's taking that away from you. It's hard. No one's taking that away from you. But I need to do something about it. I need to start getting on the path, whatever that path is. You don't find a path by staying in the middle of the jungle like, where is the path? You start walking.
Yep.
Sometimes it's, man, I passed this tree before. Okay, I know not to come here again. Go this way. I haven't seen this tree before. Okay, I hear noises on the, oh, there's a road over here. You find a path.
Yep.
If you're not moving, you're not going to find a path. Constant movement. I don't know how I just came up with that, but it's fucking sweet.
And there's only one more thing that I would say to my younger self. Buy Bitcoin in 2010.
Damn it. Yes, I should have did that. I'd be a millionaire.
Wouldn't we all? And in fact, I did buy it in 2011. I sold it in 2013.
Yeah, I sold out and I'm like, dude, I made $8,000. Bam.
That's what I did. That's what I did in college. But in college, I was living like a king. So, but I would say take a couple $100, lock this account till 2024.
Don't look at it because I don't want to alter myself.
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
You get to
lock
this
it
point, yeah.
and then put a little timer in your Google Calendar that says, "Here's the password." And you're like, "What the hell is this?" And you log in. You're welcome.
Okay, you've.
There you go.
That's the win. That's a win. That's probably the best. That's the best advice I've been given here. But if people want to know more about you or follow your journey or connect with you, where can they find you?
My journey. You can find me on Ethan Merritt Official on Instagram, YouTube, Ethan Merritt, and the last name is Merritt. Before somebody's gonna misspell it. Always happens. And I run a podcast called the Above Average Podcast with Will Marshall. He's Will Marshall Fit, and together we are joint co-hosts on there. And you'll hear more stories of us talking on there, and you'll see more fitness and whatever I find myself into on my own personal page as time goes on. So.
Dope, bro. I appreciate you for jumping on the Relentless project. I appreciate you for allowing me to try this amazing bourbon. Hell of a story, and it's still being written. So I'm excited to get you on here again and learn more, bro. I appreciate you for jumping on, taking your time, jumping on the Relentless project, and we're out. Later.